Good afternoon. I have two case studies here. The purpose or the objective of this presentation is, again, as I told you in the initial briefing session, that we want to tell you the methodology that we follow in Tata Center, the way we execute the projects, and again tell you a possibility of collaboration with other institutes, because this is something that is very close to us, that our success is not judged by how many publications we do, our success is judged by how close we go to stakeholders. And that's why we need to collaborate with people who are close to community. And if you have any such projects in mind, any ideas in mind, we would be happy to discuss, not necessarily today or tomorrow, but later on through communication as well. All right. So, of course, this is something that you know about Tata Center. We have different areas in which we are working, and they are of interest to all of them are interest to society. And this is a project that comes from food and agriculture area, and as the title says, Jaggery. There is no need to tell you what Jaggery is. Almost every Indian knows what Jaggery is, and probably all of you know how it is produced as well, especially those people who are coming from, say, Maharashtra, Karnataka, Uttarakhand, Delhi, Meerut, all this, Andhra Pradesh. Everywhere you see a Jaggery making plant, but the main feature of this plant is that these are small scale plants. I would call them as typically a cottage industry. Like, the capacity doesn't go beyond a particular limit, and this is the way it has been happening for so many years, like I would say about 200 or more years. And if you see today, if you go to a Jaggery plant or Jaggery making unit, you will not see much different from the way it was done long back. Okay, and that is because, again, this is the sector which has not really seen the high-end research or development that's happening on technology front. There are reasons behind that. Anyway, now coming back to why we are working on this. As I told you before, in Tata Center, the idea is to see a possibility of making some interventions, either technology or design interventions, to kind of help the community which is at the base of the pyramid. Now, who is at the base of the pyramid here? We are talking about farmers who are growing sugarcane. Some of them are selling, or most of them are selling this sugarcane to sugar factories. But there are few farmers who are not able to sell their sugarcane to sugar factories for so many reasons. One reason would be probably they are away from sugar factories. Sugar factories are not ready to pick this sugarcane in time. Another reason would be they are so small farmers that they need ready cash. Factories normally give the return probably 6 months later or 1 year later, whatever, depending on which place you are doing this, right? And there are many other reasons. So that's why somehow doing or converting this cane to Jaggery and selling Jaggery gets you returns immediately. Otherwise, it's a perishable thing. You can't really have your cane remaining in the farm or field for quite a long time, right? So that's the problem, and you're hard pressed in the sense you can't really do anything, because even if you make Jaggery, again you have problems, because Jaggery cannot be stored for a long time in one place. So these are the issues. So we thought that we'll look at this entire sector closely, and this is almost 4 or 5 years or more than that we're working in this area. I'm not saying that we have great achievements or here, but I'll tell you the journey, the way we are working on this. Initially, we actually went with students, sat in Jaggery making units, talked to Jaggery makers. We realized that Jaggery makers are not necessarily farmers. They may take cane from farms and make Jaggery. Okay, so Jaggery makers are entrepreneurs, small entrepreneurs. Not all the times, farmers themselves can make Jaggery. So all this data was collected, and then we realized that one possible intervention would be, I am not again saying that this is the way to go, but one possible intervention would be to allow them to make Jaggery on a slightly larger scale. Now, what is the scale at which they operate? they operate at a scale 1 ton per day, and technology doesn't, right now the way they are doing it doesn't allow them to go beyond 1 ton per day. So that is the main problem, and if you go beyond 1 ton per day, then it doesn't become economically feasible. So what is the possible intervention? Now of course this is the information about jaggery, and all this I have told you just now. Jaggery as a product is rich in nutrient compared to sugar, all of you know, and if you are able to make jaggery on a large scale and kind of make it more popular, then again health wise also it's a win-win situation, right? So it will, on one side it will fetch more earnings for farmers, on the other side you are adding a very good food sweetener, okay, in your basket. All right. Now the way jaggery is made, of course I don't need to tell you in detail, those who have visited jaggery making units. Cane is brought to the unit, it is crushed, cane juice, it is clarified, chemically it is nothing but water, sucrose, fructose and glucose, and some impurities like proteins, gums, and some metallic impurities, iron, right? I would say impurity because iron of course sometimes is nutritious, but from the point of view of sweetening, iron may not be desired, right? So all these ingredients, now I want to make jaggery out of it. The first thing is, like, if I just evaporate water and get a residue, it will be much more dirty, it will look like a black tarry material. Okay, so we need to remove these impurities, especially the proteins, gums, and allow the crystallization to take place, at the same time get a product with a desired color, which is a bit attractive, yellowish, right? So the clarification is done, right? And then you evaporate it. Once it is evaporated, get to a particular concentration, this hot thick syrup is then taken for crystallization. So that's what, sorry, it's not clear here, but this is where the crystallization is happening. And then you put the stuff in the molds, and then the molds are taken out and taken to the market. How is it different from sugar? Chemically, white sugar is sucrose, almost 100% sucrose, crystalline sucrose, and this is a mixture of sucrose, glucose, fructose, and whatever impurities you have. I say not impurity, trace of materials that you have, and that's why, like, it is from texture point of view also it is different from sugar. It is not fully crystalline, it's a mixture of crystalline and amorphous matter, right? All right, so now this is the scenario, this is the way it is done. Now what is the problem? Why we can't go to slightly higher capacities? It's because of this particular case. You have a pan which is 13 feet diameter, right? And that's a maximum that one can do, because if you want to increase the capacity further, then you need another pan. Then you have to have multiplication and you need more labor, right? And considering somehow the availability of and scarcity of laborers, rather, like going for multiple units to increase the capacity is not a good option. So that's the main problem. So when we did all this survey, in fact we almost visited 400 to 500 jaggery making units. We had a questionnaire and we have the data. It says that the first problem that they encounter is to get a labor to make jaggery, okay? And if you get labor, they may agree, they may take advance and run away. This is the situation. So that's the problem, the first problem. There are other problems also, but we realize that this problem would be solved only if we make some technological intervention in this. Making a bigger pan is not a solution. We have to change the entire process the way it is done right now. It is done in a typical batch mode. That means you dump your sugarcane juice and evaporate it and so on. Can we do it in a continuous mode? If you do it in a continuous mode, that means on one side you have a cane juice going into the process, simultaneously the product is coming out from the other side. So exactly similar way, or exactly the way sugar is done, sugar is made rather. and that is done on a very large scale. We don't want to compete with sugar here. We want to make the life of jaggery makers or the farmers associated with jaggery making simpler or easier and get more profits, right? So we thought that we'll go for a continuous process. So this is what I have told you. These are the problems. It's highly labor intensive, okay, and there are other issues also, right? So what are the interventions that we have done? Now the way clarification is done at present is that you add some additives. The proteins will float on the surface and you have to manually take them out. I would call them, of course, mostly proteins, but there are other impurities also, some inorganic salts also. They are removed in the form of scum, right? And what you get is a clarified juice. Now how do you do it in a continuous mode? So we had typically a clarifier, and of course I should have shown the schematic here, but then you have continuously the cane juice going in, and you have additive also going in continuously, and instead of scum floating on the surface, it settles down. Now where is this idea coming from? We saw that in the sugar factory. This is the way it is done. So instead of using a flocculant which is used normally for jaggery making, in which the scum floats, we are using a flocculant that is used in, or coagulant that is used in sugar factory, and because of which you have the scum settling down. Next is the heating system. Normally the way the heating is done is, you look at this. This is your pan, and below the pan you have a big furnace, pit furnace, and a labor would continuously send in the bagasse. Okay, it's highly labor intensive process. You can imagine, like most of the times, like of course the season is October to April, so especially the second half when you have summer going on, person continuously standing there sending in bagasse, okay, has its, you can imagine the kind of pain that he would be going through, right? So the idea here is to change the entire heating system. So instead of doing direct combustion, we thought that we'll go for indirect combustion, wherein we use a heating medium like thermic fluid. One can use steam as well, and we have a separate burner in which the bagasse is burned, the heat is given to thermic fluid, and this thermic fluid flows in the plant and imparts heat to the sugarcane juice for evaporation. So these are some pictures, and we have recently introduced a multiple effect evaporator also. I don't know whether you are aware of multiple effect evaporator, which is commonly used in sugar factories, wherein the energy consumption goes down drastically. When you are evaporating some solution, the vapors come out, that is steam, it has its own heat, right? So you can use that heat itself, okay, to evaporate rest of the juice, and you may get some saving in consumption. Not some, in fact it will be depending on how many effects you have, the saving may go down that much, okay. So that's another intervention. The third intervention is in crystallization. Now you are doing it in continuous mode. The way it is done at present is this. The syrup is poured in pits and then you stir it, and you can see how many people are doing it simultaneously, and then after some time the crystallization would take place about 15 minutes or so, and then you put it in mold. But in a continuous process, when the evaporation is happening continuously, you are continuously getting this syrup. It's not like the batch is over and then you put it, okay. Now this syrup has to be crystallized continuously, for which we have designed a new crystallizer, okay. It's a screw conveyor type apparatus. Tomorrow we will show you the clip also, so that you will get a clear picture as to what exactly is happening. So this syrup would fall down in this crystallizer, it's continuously moving, the screw would push this thick material. Now the crystallization taking place, so you have more and more, your thickness is going up and up, so the movement becomes a bit tricky. For that we need screw. Screw would also ensure that you have enough stirring so that you have proper nucleation and growth of crystal happening. It has to be designed properly, no literature data, so we had to do many experiments to come up with the right residence time for such crystallization to take place, right. So every intervention, every innovation that I am talking about here, we had a team of at least 4 or 5 students plus project staff working all together for at least 6 to 7 months on an average for one intervention. So it's, as I said, like we have been working on this for more than 4 years now. Last but one is the molding. Now again, this is done manually. You can imagine your crystallized matter is coming out continuously. Instead of doing it manually, if you have a mechanized way of molding, it would serve the purpose, and this is what we have designed, in which there is a continuous flow of molds. They are collecting the crystallized matter and they are moving forward, right. And then demolding would take place after some time when the entire material is solidified. So this is again the internal or indigenous research through which we have come up with this particular unit. And you get nice, I don't know whether you can see this, but these are the jaggery blocks. You might have seen in real practice, typically it is done with the help of cloth and all. There is no surface finishing there. Of course, it is a matter of appearance. The taste would depend on so many other things. But the product looks good. And then now that we have this, you can have different sizes of the mold and you can get a product of whichever size and shape that you want. This is again very important, because if you want very small blocks, what happens in a batch process, it becomes again more labor intensive, right. So the cost would go up, but since we have it mechanized here, it is easy for us to make the blocks of whichever size that we want. We are also working on powder now. I think I have one slide there. The last innovation is about drying. Now what is the fuel used here? It's bagasse, which is a residue after you crush cane, and this bagasse is wet, about 50 to 60% moisture in it or the juice in it. Okay. In a conventional process, it is spread out and allowed to sun dry, and you can see on the left hand side, so many people are required to achieve this drying. You can't just spread it and then wait. You have to kind of renew the surface every time so that the drying happens faster, right. So that's a problem, labor intensive, highly laborious work, right, because of which again many laborers are turning their back to jaggery making business or process or production, right. So what we have done is we have introduced a dryer, a rotary dryer. I am not saying this is a rocket science, a new dryer altogether. It is used for solid drying in many industries, but then this is for the first time being used for jaggery making to the best of our knowledge, and the drying happens with the flue gas that is coming out from our burner. So we do not need any additional heat for drying, and because of which there is so much saving in terms of labor, so much saving in terms of land. So it is continuous crushing happening, the wet bagasse is going to the dryer and the dry bagasse is sent to the burner directly. So nice integration. So heating system, again there is an intervention. So with all these, we have been able to put up a unit which is at a commercial scale of 1 ton per day. I was telling you in the afternoon, this is in collaboration with a private engineering college okay, near Kolhapur, the rural engineering college, and this particular unit is placed in the campus of that college, and our entire team of jaggery project is working there. So we have a lab established there, and the students from that college are also involved, faculty members are involved, and not just one college. In that district, there are about 4 to 5 colleges who give training on mechanical and chemical engineering. Many students come there and spend some time there, especially during their vacation as interns. Some of them are doing projects. So it's again, as I said, like this is something that we desire in Tata Center, where we collaborate with people and it's a win-win situation for both of us. Okay. Otherwise, this was not possible. If we wouldn't have collaborated with the college there, like we couldn't have done this, because earlier we were bringing cane from farms which are about 300-400 kilometers from here. The cost is itself, the transportation cost used to be about 3 to 4 times. Okay. So we can't afford to do that. And by the time cane comes here, sometimes it's fermented. So all these issues are there. So you have to go to the place where it is being used, or it is being kind of produced, right? So at present we have this unit. We have prepared a bankable report also. So any entrepreneur wants to take it up, we are ready to translate or transfer this technology. In fact, some of them have shown interest for the techno-economic feasibility studies and worked with us. Only problem with this is, like, now it is capital intensive and it will work only at a particular scale. So right now this plant is a demonstration plant which is 1 ton per day, but I won't advise one to put up such plant 1 ton per day, because it's not going to be economically viable. So at least 5 tons per day would be a good option. Another issue is, like, this is a seasonal product, so more than 6 months in a year the plant will not be operational, something similar to a sugar factory. So we are looking at a possibility of doing something in that period. We are exploring whether we can concentrate milk, okay, which is available in the same area, and increase the utility of this particular plant. And I would say there are, at the same, we have students and staff working in the field. At the same time, there are some PhD students, master students also working on this project. So we are, one side we are doing some intervention in the field, and same time we are meeting our academic objectives also, when we are publishing the findings on this. And it's a grey area, like no one has worked on jaggery. If you just see any scientific resource and type jaggery and see how many articles are there, okay, not more than 10-15, and on the other side sugar, there will be 10 to 15,000 articles. Okay. So we are bringing this product which is otherwise sleeping there for so many years, okay, into limelight. Okay, there is another possibility of making an impact. Next one is where we are talking about waste management. This is one of the areas in Tata Center where we are trying to look at a possibility of how technology can help achieve waste management in a better way. Now, if you see overall waste, especially the municipal solid waste that we are talking about, has many components in it, okay, and every component has to be treated separately. Okay. If you can treat the entire waste all together, nothing like that. Okay. But then there are many problems in terms of emissions, in terms of probably you won't be able to use it properly in terms of its energy content and so on. Many people do incineration directly, but our waste, especially the waste in India, is not suitable for incineration because of the problem that it has very high water or moisture content. So you need to spend so much energy in vaporizing the water itself, okay, so it doesn't become economically viable. Okay. So that's why treating Indian waste is a big, or I would say it's a very different problem compared to, say, European or American waste. Okay. And so we have, and of course there are many efforts going on. It's not that we are the only people working in this area, but what we have thought that we will take up a problem which is of interest to us, in the sense, again, as I said, we just don't work in laboratory, we want to test it somewhere. Now if you want to test municipal solid waste management, then there can't be a better place than the IIT campus. So we thought that we will apply all our technologies that we develop for waste management in IIT campus, and there is a big project going on wherein institute has given us space, and we have kind of assured them that at some point of time, okay, that we will make this campus waste free. Okay. Now there are many components in the waste. I would say wet waste, dry waste is a very broad categorization. In dry waste, again, you have plastic, you have paper, you have metal, glass and so on, right, and every component has to be treated separately. So segregation has to happen first. So we started with segregation drive and it is worked out very well. At present we have about almost 100% families segregating the waste very well, it's collected well. Now, and then for every component we have one group working in laboratory to develop a proper technology that can be demonstrated. So, I am going to only talk about one technology now, of course next 3 to 4 minutes, not so that is on how to treat the garden waste. Now, garden waste means what? It is basically the dry leaves, twigs, broken branches and so on. And now we see IIT campus, it's green campus, and every day we generate not less than 2 tons per day green garden waste, and that is only from the trees which are on the road. Okay, so we are not touching those which are inside at all. So there the leaves are falling down, getting composted, whatever. So whatever waste that comes, garden waste, how to take care of that? The idea is to use it such that the entire business, entire management becomes viable. Now, what is the problem now? It has a very high calorific value compared to wood. It is almost equal, I would say, about 15 to 16 megajoule per kg. But how is it different from wood? Wood is a good source of heat. We can use it for cooking, you can use it for any thermal applications, power generation sometimes. But what is the problem with these leaves, dry leaves? It has relatively high ash content, okay, high inorganic matter. Now, this inorganic matter will be a problem if you use it in any of the units, like for example boilers, burners and so on. So, we have come up with something called as gasifier. So, we have designed a gasifier, a new gasifier that will work on a high ash feedstock. Okay. If you use wood in a gasifier, now there are many gasifiers available in market, but if you use, but they are only for wood, low ash. If we have high ash, then this high ash will get softened, or it will get in a molten form and form clinkers inside a gasifier, and the entire operation becomes infeasible. The flow of material will not take place. Now, you know gasification, in one line it is basically to convert the solid carbon into the gaseous form, and this not in the form of carbon dioxide but carbon monoxide and hydrogen, which is called the producer gas, is used as for heating purpose. So, if you burn it, you will get some calorific value from it, right. So, that is what we are doing here. So, these dry waste or dry garden waste is processed, and we are converting into shredded form and then pellets, and these pellets would be used in the gasifier at the end. Okay. And this gasifier has already been tested, it's working well. Now, we are looking at a business model for that, right. And it is not just for municipal solid waste, but this gasifier can be used for agro waste as well. Now, you know the agro waste problem, Delhi, Punjab, right, and not just Delhi, Punjab, everywhere, like you have to burn this agro waste within short time, otherwise if there is no taker, like we can't really, because there are cycles in farming, okay. So much biomass available, people are just burning it, and unnecessarily it is causing pollution, right. So, if you can use this biomass to make pellets and convert that into gas that can be used for cooking purpose, it will be a great value addition, and that is what we are looking at. So, with this I will stop here. Thanks.